hair, dress, everything, and I came out. I only heard it once, but then when I was again in that kitchen, five times, five times, I was in a bathroom. Because I was in the kitchen and I went to the bathroom, and while I'm in the bathroom, through all these walls, there was five times that doll threw the kiss and laughed. And that scared the piss out of me. You know, I got goosebumps telling you about that. This is the truth. So I come out and I stood right in this doorway. By this time I'm crying. And I says, please, whoever you are, I says, I don't know who you are. I'm talking to the freaking wall.
No.
So, and I says, but this is very scary. Please don't do this anymore. I says, it's not good for my health. And it stopped. And then I heard that Larry died, so he might have came and let me know.
He most likely did. If it was that time frame.
I was closed in that bathroom over there. So then I figured, at that time I felt like just taking that doll and going right back to the store and refunding it. Because I figured maybe that's the devil.
That was made to bring joy and love. He knew it would get your attention.
It sure did. I mean, so really, see, it's not doing anything now.
I believe you 100%, Grandma. And like those things don't just go off. They're made to, you have to.
And it has to be right in front. So I told Brian that, you know, the five times. And so it's still there. So he says, because he brought my mail in, and I told him about that. And so he says, well, let's see. He says, you have these drapes over there. He says, so the wind probably, you know, when the furnace comes on, that's doing it. So we came here, and I put everything to that corner now after Christmas, you know. But I had them against that drape, standing up, because I had quite a bit of stuff there. And I says, now you know that the furnace couldn't have done it because it couldn't have moved it with the boxes. You see that? So he's trying like 5 different times. It would never go on for him. And he says, well, how come it didn't go now? I says, it had to prove something to you. I really think so. So he was surprised himself.
Huh? The Lord works in mysterious ways. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it ain't there.
I know that. But that doll, you know, I love that doll. You know, I loved it for the one reason it was like I really had a.
When you showed it to me, you had such a beautiful smile when you showed me it. You really like it.
Yeah, I do. Because see, that was when I came from the hospital, the Dawn picked me up, and you know, when I got released. Because like I told you, I was released next day, and then I was put in on Wednesday, and then I didn't get discharged till Friday. You know, and Dawn brought me home. I walked in and I says, hello, I'm home. She says, who you talking to? I says, to the wall, but it don't answer. So it's pretty funny. So really, I'm by myself. It's very quiet. It's not quiet with the thing on, you know, because I keep it louder. But I don't really hear from people a lot. Now, my godchild, Linda. You know Linda?
Yeah.
She's so much like me. In fact, her husband Lard says, okay, Anthony. Yeah, but she is such a good heart. You know, she's the only one left from the family. She lost her father, her mother, her 2 sisters, and there was only 3 girls. She's all by herself. Well, her husband. It's a good couple. They are so involved in church and everything, you know. 2 good people. But when Larry died, she called and she says, she asked me how I was feeling, and we talked a little bit. She says, you know that Larry died, and she says, do you think we could stay overnight? I said, sure. She says, don't bother cooking for us or anything. She says, don't make nothing. She says, because we started this cabbage soup diet. I says, oh, Linda, don't do that. Just come in and start it after. She says, no. She says, we already started it. She says, we'll bring our own stuff. So, and he lost 19 pounds in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yeah. How? He did. I says, you have to send me that. So I could maybe give that to Marlo and Eileen. Maybe Marlo could lose a little because he got so fat.
A little bit.
Yeah. And that's not healthy,
No.
you know.
I'm getting fat too.
Yeah, but you're young. You can still walk and do stuff, but you don't do anything. So really, he shouldn't have all that weight because that's bad for his heart.
True, yeah.
So, you see, I still care. I don't ever want to get bigger than I am because I like to look younger. And I don't look like an old woman.
No.
Even my body.
You're going.
I know.
That's why I said you're blessed, Grandma.
I really was. But you know, I am so much like my mother. I can see that. I look like her. I am so much like my mother. And my mother was such a good person. She worked so hard. You don't remember her?
Very, very.
I mean, she was shorter than I.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't as short as Bernie, but she was in between the two of us. She weighed about 120 pounds all her life. Older and everything, you know, so you know she was not a big person. And she worked so hard with my dad on that field, just like a man. She did, every day. And then her work in the house. And so she had, shoulders were aching. She probably had torn rotator cuffs like what I had. And she was complaining, and she never complained after that one night. She was sleeping, and she dreamt of Jesus. He says, you complain with your shoulders. And he says, look at my hands. And they had Jesus hanging right over, you know, the picture, over the bedroom, over the bed. I'm telling you, I came from a family that was so religious. Sins or no sins, every Saturday confession. So, when I say I had good parents, I did. And I never seen my dad drinking or smoking.
That's good.
Yeah. So when I didn't realize that the Hines were drinkers. I didn't realize that. And I was afraid to meet them because I knew I could never marry him if he didn't turn Catholic. And there were 7 boys, 3 turned Catholic, and he promised his mother that he would never do that. And he didn't have a choice because that's the only way he could marry me. He had to be Catholic because he had to be in church. And then right after that, I see what the old man is like. I figured, because my mother always says, what you see at home is what you're going to find in the siblings, in all them. And I never seen him until we were in calls. Never met him. I was afraid because I figured God knows what.
Did you didn't know his family when you guys were growing up?
No. I never knew him. I never seen him or nothing. I had a boyfriend here in Detroit that we were going together, but for like a year. But we broke up 3 times in that 1 year. Always for the same thing. I was very respectful. And it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And so for that reason. And then we went up north. I did with my brother John. And since I was dating Leo, and he was so neat, everything, he was just like a woman. Everything perfect, everything, tie and everything in a mirror before he'd walk out. He didn't have no car. Everything was taxi all the time. Everything was cabs. So really, that wouldn't have been a very good marriage either. And I figured, we went up north. My brother John drove because he had the car, and I went. And so he was taking Clara, the girl he was dating, so then I asked Leo to go if he wanted to go. So the two of us girls were in the back seat, and because the girls slept downstairs at my mother's, and the guys slept upstairs,
Yeah.
So that worked. But we were out, and I saw back there, I was with Leo and John with Clara, and they were all kidding him, his friends. Hey, Rab, you gonna buy a drink and all that? And he didn't have any money, I'm sure, because he was working, farm.
Yeah.
And I told Leo, and I says, he is such a good-looking guy, And then, I don't know what happened, but I figured I'm going to go up north. I never knew him. I figured I'm going to go up north.
He caught your eye.
No, I didn't go there to try and meet him.
No, but he caught your eye.
Oh.
You went back.
Oh, he was a handsome man when
Yeah.
he was young. And so I figured I bought a pair of ice skates, and I always wanted to learn how to ice skate because I went seen Sonia Haney skating, in Detroit.
Yeah.
You know who she is.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. And so I figured I would like to learn that. So I figured, and I was a waitress in a restaurant, and I worked on Woodward Avenue, in the restaurant. And all the taxi cabs.
Oh, in the restaurant?
Yeah, they would come in,
You said you
always
worked
say
on
my
Woodward,
boss-
but then you said in
Yeah.
the restaurant.
Yeah, on Woodward. No, in a restaurant on
Yeah,
Woodward
yeah.
Avenue.
Okay.
And they'd always tell me you got the best waitress on Woodward Avenue.
Who?
Oh, the taxi cabs would tell my boss that. And he knew that.
What was the name of the person who was the best waitress? I don't know, I'm just joking.
No, but they said, because I was very neat, there was no playing around with customers.
It was
you know
just
what I mean?
business.
Yeah. And I was a very little person. I was only 20 inches in the waist when I got married. Can you imagine?
What are you now, 14?
Oh, hell. Oh, and yeah.
No,
14
14 at the waist.
No, with clothes. With pads. Because I never was that size. I used to be like a 10, 12, even after I had children. So anyway. And so I asked him if I could get 2 weeks off to go up north. And so he gives me 2 weeks off, and he makes the girl work the double shift for the 2 weeks. And I come back, and I told Leo, I met him. I was very honest. And I figured my brother Joe, he was the one to stay
How'd you get up north?
on a bus.
Oh, really? They had buses?
They had
Okay.
buses.
Where did the bus take you?
I guess I don't
Like-
remember if it was
like
Alpena or
Posen?
Roger
Okay.
City. And then my folks picked me up,
Okay.
or my brother. And so anyway, I asked Joe, then my brother, if he'd take me there, I would learn how to skate. And he said, yeah. He says, but I have to pick up a friend. Well, I didn't know who the friend was. That was him. I was so embarrassed. Never been on the skates at all. I didn't know what the hell to do.
Where'd you go skating?
They had like a ice ring in Roger City
Okay.
on the outside for all the people to come
Yeah.
in. And so then, that's how we met.
And you talked to Grandpa that day?
Well,
You
yeah.
you engaged in small talk?
Yeah, in fact, he's the one that tied up my skates because he was a skater too, And I was so embarrassed to get on there. But and then I remember when I came back after the 2 weeks, and I told you, because I am a very honest person. I don't lie, I tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I said, I met that guy and I was out with him. Oh, he said, well, if that's the way you feel, why don't you go back? I said, okay. So I asked my boss, Mike Manos was his name. He owned the business. And I asked him, I says, could I have 2 more weeks off?
What was the name of the restaurant?
I don't know I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but
Okay.
it was just like a small restaurant on a corner.
Like a diner or something.
And so he gave me the 2 weeks off, and well, the girl couldn't be working double shifts a whole month like that. So he hired a girl, but as soon as I came back, he said he laid her off, or he got rid of her. And I got my job back because I went back for the 2 weeks. I came back and I told him it was great, that I was learning how to skate and all that. He says, well, why don't you go back? He said the wrong thing. That's what I did. I asked him, could I have 2 more weeks off? He didn't want to lose me.
Yeah.
He knew he had a good waitress. And so he played around, that he could give me the time off.
Yeah.
And so I went 2 more weeks.
And what happened?
Well, when I came back, it was never that, like he.
Yeah, but when you went back up the first time, and you went ice skating, and Grandpa tied your ice skates.
Yeah.
Did you see Grandpa anymore the whole time you were up there?
Oh, definitely. In fact, that was such a stormy day, so much snow, and I get dressed because 7:00 he's going to pick me up, and my dad says, oh, you don't have to get dressed. I can see my dad saying that. He says, nobody in their right mind would go out today. He says, all that snow. 7:00, he's there, and he parks on a road, and he had to walk all the way to that house.
Yeah, amen.
He carried me to the car so that I wouldn't get snowed up, but he was there.
What a gentleman.
Huh?
What a gentleman.
The first week that he knew me, he knew he wanted to marry me. It was just like you with what you call.
Ava.
Well, yeah. I mean, he met some, and the funny thing was, the store in Hawks used to be owned by Konecny. And my dad, he butchered a cow, and so they used like all the roasts and stuff and for soup, but they were not really steak people.
Okay.
Years ago.
Yeah.
My folks.
Yep.
So he sold the back quarter to the guy in Metz, because it wasn't like it is now that everything has to be checked.
Yeah. You could just do whatever you wanted.
Yeah. And so.
It was real freedom.
Yeah. So my dad drove it to Metz, and he asked me if I want to go, and I went. Naturally, I'm dressed in a fur coat. I had I always had good stuff.
Yeah.
And I was dressed, and I went with him, but I was very shy. I was a very private person. I was then, and I am today. And so anyway, I just stood there till he got all his business done. And Bab used to hang around in that store. I didn't know that. He wasn't there. But I learned later that he used to stay there, because he told me what this Konecny said. When Bab came in there, he says, I saw such a beautiful girlie. and he told him, that was the daughter of the guy that he bought the steak from.
Yeah.
So see, I learned that after I met him, because I didn't know that then. But I didn't even know that I would meet him either, because that was way before the time that Joe said, I have to pick up my friend. That's how we met. And then when I came back and we went dancing.
Wait, you came back down to Detroit?
From Detroit.
And he stayed up there?
Oh, yeah, he lived there.
So how...
And then when Leo knew that I was back, and he called, and we went out dancing, but it wasn't like any other time. There was hardly any conversation. I was very upset with him. I was. Because it's for the same crazy shit all the time. And furthermore, it was my birthday. It was April 21st, and he worked in that bowling alley in Hamtramck, and so he gives me money as a gift, and I figured you couldn't even take the time. He dropped me home with the cab, that I can change clothes because we're going out dancing. and it was just bothering me that he would just give me money. I make money all the time being a waitress, so really that's not a gift. Money to me is not a gift.
Yeah.
Never was, for that reason, because I know I earned it, and I made it, and I made good money. as a tip.
Yeah, so but what did you think he was supposed to feel like? You just went up and told him, you came back and told him, hey, yeah, I met a real handsome guy. And then he still took you out dancing. He could have left you at the diner.
Well,
Think about it.
that's true.
What is he supposed to say? I'm so happy for you that we were dating, but you just met a nice, handsome guy.
Well, I probably wasn't a nice person for that reason that I didn't have, you know,
It's fate, Grandma. It's fate.
whatever.
So you came down here after the dancing with your boy who's a friend, and then
Yeah. Well, now it was deciding. I know that a friend of my mother's asked, well, now, which one do you think she'll marry? My mother says, I really, only God knows. Only God knows. Because so anyway, when it was my birthday and he gave me the $20 bill, that did it.
$20 back then. That's like giving somebody a couple $100 today.
Oh, maybe more than that.
I'm serious.
I know that. But see, he was always, everything was cab. You see, he never had.
He made that much money in the bowling alley?
I don't know.
What was he
Well,
doing?
and
Bootlegging?
he used to play parlay, horses, and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I figured that probably wouldn't be the best marriage either.
He was in the Purple Gang?
No, he was a good guy. And nice looking guy.
Yeah. So then how did you end up start dating Grandpa?
I told you.
Well, I mean, yeah, but now you're in Detroit and he's still up north in the
That's
snow.
right. Yeah, and it stayed like that. And then the bad thing was this, I got to tell you this, to tell you, I was a very good person. I was a respectful lady. So naturally, people were interested in me
Yeah,
for that reason.
yeah.
And so anyway, John and Clara were going to get married. So now John asked me, who do you want to stand up with, Bab or Leo? I said, Leo, because he dances, Bab doesn't. I taught him how to dance, But so I stood up with Leo.
So Leo still stood up in the wedding?
And yeah. And Bab drove my parents to Detroit.
Jesus.
But I forbid him to come to the wedding.
You had Grandpa drive your family down.
I didn't have him drive.
Well,
I didn't know that he was going to do
but he did because he liked you.
Yes.
And then you said you couldn't come to the wedding.
Yeah.
That's not correct.
No, that was not correct. But I got away with it. No. And really, I wasn't trying to be mean or something. In fact, there was another guy that I liked.